Alright, are you sick and tired of losing to random players? Because if so, this video might be for you. Listen, we've all been there. We face off against an opponent where it doesn't make any sense as to what they're doing, and we end up losing the round, and it's one of the most frustrating things in any fighting game or any video game in general. So the reason I made this video is to help you become more successful in those types of matchups. Now the first thing I want you to do is get the word random out of your head. These aren't random players. I think that actually undersells what they are quite a bit. Players that don't really play to one uniform style, they're just unconventional players. And you're going to run into them at every level, whether you're just starting off your Street Fighter career or you're in a tournament like you'll see in this video over here. Alright, so this was the video in question. It's from a tournament back in the day at a big event called DreamHack. And this Ryu player was considered the random player, and if you will go back and watch this, it just shows how much he got into that Rufus's player's head, because all the links that Rufus tried to go through, this Ryu just mashed DP out of. He's doing random jump-ins, and you can tell during the set that he was just getting under his opponent's skin. You know, even moments like this, basic anti-airs, like this is such an easy way for Rufus to anti-air. It doesn't even have a DP, you just hold crouch, medium punch, and get the anti-air, and then the Ryu player goes into this whiff jab animation that just killed everyone at that time. But as you can see, as the game went on, the Ryu ended up winning, and as you can see, the player with the Nintendo shirt on the right, he ended up losing. Look how frustrated he was when he lost. Like, you don't want to be in this situation. That's why you got to prepare for these types of players at all costs. Like you see, you just never know when you're going to run into these types of opponents. And guess what? They're not always just noobs that are playing this game. Some of the best players in the world, take Noah for example. He's a very unconventional player. There's not too many players that play like him, but he still gets the results, and he's obviously a grandmaster level player. So you can't just discourage people to play a certain way. At the end of the day, there's only one goal in fighting games, and that's to beat your opponent. It's not to look the best while you're doing it. You gotta get the health to zero, whether it looks cool or not. So the very first tip to fight someone that's random is to actually not think about the game at all. Don't think about any combos or your spacing or anything like that. Just think about having the right mindset. You have to be focused when you fight these types of players. If you get rattled or you get shook just because, you know, they're playing different and they're hitting you with wake up uppercuts or supers or doing random DIs, if you tilt yourself, I'm telling you, that is the single worst thing you can do against an opponent that fights like that. Because not only can they smell blood, you're going to be so rattled you're not going to be able to play properly, do your anti-airs or anything like that. I'm telling you, the number one thing you have to do is stay focused. Alright, the first in-game tip is controlling what you can control. And what I mean by that is, if my opponent is going to do a wake-up DP, there's nothing I can do to change their mind. They're going to do it. You know, I don't have mind control abilities to make them not do this. If they're committed to doing it, they're going to do it. Or if my opponent likes to, you know, jab out of my block strings or something like this, you have to do things where you are in control and it doesn't allow them to do it. For example, let's just say my opponent, as mentioned, loves to do wake-up DPs. Now I just got to learn my safe jumps. I know this is a safe jump with Terry, so no matter what my opponent does, they're not going to be able to beat me with a Shoto DP. The important thing here to remember is I'm in full control now, because I know an uppercut is not going to beat me, so I don't have to worry about anything random. And if again they do like throwing in block strings or trying to interrupt your block strings, I can change it up by adding drive rush to make myself more plus to catch them out of it. So you have to control the situations that you can control, but also let go of the stuff that you can't. If they're going to wake up in DP, you gotta prepare for it and just have your safe jumps ready. And for those that are curious, the magic number for a safe jump is plus 42. As you see on the bottom screen where it says advantage, it says 42 in blue. That pretty much means you're going to beat, you know, the vast majority of uppercuts in this game or wake up supers. There's some situations like hits that have armor, like Honda's headbutt. You just got to jump in with a jab instead of a stronger button. But remember, look for this number plus 42 and know that randos just can't mash DP through it. Alright, so the next tip goes hand in hand with the tip that I mentioned earlier. But if you actually do get the read on your opponent, you gotta make it count. So let's just say you block their wake up DP. Don't go in with like a weak jab punish like that, or just go into like a medium ender like this with a fierce punch. You have to make those opportunities count. Hit them with something that goes into a heavy, and then you can drive rush after into further combos like this. And I'm telling you, when your opponent knows that, hey, not only is this person really punishing me for my mistakes, but they also know their safe jumps and they also know how to frame trap me, that is when you can start getting a random chaotic player to start cracking, because they know now, hey, my mistakes, they're not just gonna give me a slap on the wrist. I'm gonna be eating big damage, and if they know what they're doing, they're gonna get a good follow-up after it, and they might have to change up their game plan altogether. Alright, so the next tip I like to call is just playing in your shell a bit. So if you know you get a knockdown, a lot of times you're gonna wanna go for a follow-up. You wanna take advantage of the plus frames and just go in on like that. But if you know your opponent might have the tendency to, do wake-up shenanigans, like an EX headbutt, for example, in Honda's example, just chill and go back and maybe 3, 4, maybe even 5 knockdowns, especially if you get good damage off your knockdowns like that. Just try to bait them into something. And, knowing our luck, sometimes they're going to do it on the 6th or 7th time we go for this. But I'm telling you, most random types of players, they're not going to wait 5 or 6 interactions. They're going to be doing the headbutt anywhere from the 1st or 3rd time you knock them down. So this actually lets you control the chaos a bit by slowing everything down. And once they, go for that big miss, that's when you execute them with the other tips that I gave and go for that max damage punish. And then finally, the last tip, I wouldn't recommend this to be your first approach altogether, but let's just say all the tips I'm giving aren't working in that one situation you're playing. Your opponent has all the reads on you, they're not falling for any of your stuff. Sometimes it's okay to fight fire with fire. So if they knock you down, you go a little wild too. Wake up supers, wake up DPs, you actually try to flip the game on its head before your opponent can do it as well. And then they might have the wheels start turning in their heads like, oh crap, this person's just as crazy as I am, and they might have to start slowing it down because they're not used to dealing with that as much as they dish it out. So again, it wouldn't be the first way I'd recommend you take a situation like that, but you got to keep it in your back pocket just to know, hey, if nothing else is working, I'm gonna fight fire with fire and try to give them a taste of their own medicine. And that's the video. I hope y'all liked it. I actually love making these types of videos because I know a lot of people do ask for different tips to improve, and obviously fighting these types of players is a big thing on a lot of people's plates. So let me know how it went, leave some comments like you always do, and I'll see you on the next one.